We're back with another IPS take, and today we are talking NC State football, specifically the number 1 jersey. We know here under Dave Doeren, dating back to the 2014 season, Dave has made sure to give the number 1 jersey or award it to a player who exhibits an elite work ethic and practice and training habits while also leading his teammates. This player doesn't just uphold the standards, said Doeren, he pushes them higher. And I've got with me Jake McSwain and Alex G here to discuss it, guys. And before we get into some potential candidates here in 2025, because we know NC State has to replace that number now that Davin Vann is no longer playing for the Wolfpack, I'll give you a list of everyone who has worn it dating back to 2014. So in 2014, you had Jarvis Byrd, cornerback, who was coming off multiple ACL injuries. And then in 2015, Hakeem Jones at safety. 2016 and 2017, Jaylen Samuels, tight end. 2018, Stephen Lewis. 2019, James Smith-Williams. And then from 2020 to 2022, Isaiah Moore at linebacker, which led up to Davin Vann the last 2 seasons. And Alex, I'll go to you first. This number 1 jersey, we know it's important for Dave Doeren.
Well, without a doubt, I think it's a really cool symbolic thing that State does. By the way, it's slick. We were talking off air. We know LSU does it with the number 7 jersey. It's kind of a legendary thing that they got going on over there. So I think it's a really cool tradition, and it's an easy way to reward somebody for their efforts, their leadership, their team first mentality, their work ethic. I think it's an awesome thing, and it's a really quick way to catch the eye of the fans, to let everybody know, like, hey, this is our guy, this is our leader, this is who we want, representing us at the coin toss. This is who leads us in the off season. I think it's pretty sweet.
Jake, it's interesting. This started before all of the transfer portal, NIL, revenue share stuff, and it feels like you typically are going to want like a I don't want to say homegrown because that means in-state player, but you know what I mean, a player you recruited out of high school who's been through it all. But the rosters have changed to where now you've got guys who are coming out of different programs who may exhibit that. So would you be surprised if it's a transfer portal player that gets awarded the number 1 jersey?
I think I'd be surprised just a little bit given the significance behind that. I think I would generally believe it's going to be someone that's been around the program for a couple years that's kind of earned that right. So if I were putting money on it, it would be on someone that's returning.
All right, let's jump into it. Let's go over a few candidates. We will each try and give one. I'll go last to try and give you guys a little bit of a jump start. Alex, let's go to you first. Who would be your number 1 option if you were Dave Doeren, or at least from what we can see in terms of awarding this jersey to someone?
Man, I got like a 1A and a 1B. I'll save my 1B through a more fun conversation towards the end. I think that Caden Fordham makes a ton of sense right here. Battling back from injury, he represented NC State at the media day in Charlotte. Your middle linebacker, you just mentioned Isaiah Moore wore it for 3 seasons. Likely your undeniable leader on the defense. He's your vocal guy. He's got the green dot. And he's a really good player. And we've talked about him a lot on our shows, on the boards. We'll talk about him in the position previews. But talent aside, working back from an ACL in, what is it going to be, 10 months? It's a pretty quick turnaround from the injury, ready to go for the season, ready to go for fall camp. I think that's something that you want to reward a guy like that with the jersey.
Jake, I like that selection. I think Caden Fordham coming off injury, we know I gave the list. The majority of those players were defensive players. He is a guy, one of the rare ones who's been around NC State, was recruited out of high school. I do want to add out there, and Alex kind of pointed this out before we started taping, the player has to want to wear the jersey too, right? I think, Alex, you mentioned Peyton Wilson was offered it, declined it, wanted to stay with the number 11. So it's something that, the player has to agree with, but I think Caden Fordham makes a lot of sense. Jake, who would you go with?
I'm going to stick with the linebacker room and go Sean Brown. And for a lot of similar reasons, as Alex said, with Caden Fordham. And I think primarily it makes a lot of sense because you think about what he's done for the team. He's changed positions. He's, adapted to different roles and still been highly productive and a leader on defense. So you look at what he did last year, and I just think it's a kind of a hand-in-glove fit for him to step into even more of that leadership role symbolically with the number 1 jersey.
Yeah, I like that pick. Alex, what do you think of Sean?
He's a beast, right? He's kind of got that Terminator look out there with the dreads hanging out the back of the helmet, flying around, trying to crack heads. Like he fits it, right? That's kind of the first off the bus guy, right? Like there's an aura around him that I think is really strong. So that it wouldn't surprise me at all. That was another guy that was top of mind. And you cycle it back. That's another player that's representing state in the media and frequently out in front.
Yeah, man, I think those are two kind of man. I took the hard one here, right? Because I think those are two pretty nice selections there. I wanted to go offense, but then we started talking about the transfer portal. Could you go Justin Jolie? Could you go Hollywood Smothers? Would you ask guys like that to do it? I don't think you can go O-line, Alex. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you can see Jakarius Pete wear number 1, can you?
That was going to be my fun pick for the end, right?
Right.
I mentioned the LSU deal. Will Campbell wore the number 7 patch last year, so he was still 66 for LSU, but he had it. They found a way to get it on him.
Yeah. Jay, what do you think on the offensive side? I mean, give me a guy.
Yeah. So on offense, I think it makes sense for Justin Jolie. I know he's a transfer, but it's his second year in the program. So I think as long as they've been here multiple years. But I think from a logistics standpoint, Jolie changed numbers already once this offseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know if they'd be doing that twice in one offseason. I think they would have known that might have been coming and said, hey, hold off, big fella. Let's not change that number quite yet.
Well, I think when you look at it, you could you do C.J. Bailey?
Same thing, right?
He went from the 16 of Russell Wilson. He had the Russell Wilson patch, so I'm assuming he chose the number he wanted. I'm gonna go back to the defensive side. I'm gonna go with a guy who's kind of falls in line with a lot of what you guys have mentioned in terms of being out there this spring, this summer. Brandon Cleveland at nose tackle, another guy who was recruited out of high school by NC State. I think he's an anchor for them on this defensive front. He's been really developed and emerged into a player who I think NC State expects to have a big year this year. And I know he's been vocal about taking on more of a leadership role here this offseason. And I think that's a guy where, he checks a lot of the boxes. Alex, I'll go back to you, a lot like Fordham and Brown.
Yeah, you got to be a dog, right? You really got to be a dog to wear a single digit on the defensive line. Look, I'm a big guy, so I can say it. That big belly, you got like the bigger the number, most of the time, the better you look. So him wearing the double 4s kind of covers that up. But he's not afraid to pull it out and rub it. That's his celebration, right? So, look, I think it's a great problem to have if we're sitting here, and we might have some favorites, some front runners, but any of the names that we just kind of glossed over, if anybody was awarded that jersey number, I think it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you guys before we get going, any chance they don't award it this year? Any chance you think maybe they say we don't do it this year because I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe it's just something that you kind of want to reserve. I mean, I don't know. How would you handle it? I go to you, Jake. I see you seem to be thinking about it.
Yeah, man. I think that's just kind of goes against. It's like the antithesis of the Dave Doeren culture. So I don't think I could see a world where they're just like, yeah, no one stepped up enough to earn it, or everyone turned it down. We're just not going to award it. I think that, like, to me, and I'm not a big red flag guy, but like, yeah, that might be a red flag to me if that happens.
Yeah, I'm with you there. He's such a big players lead guy, right? He's obviously the face of the program as the head coach, and he takes ownership very often. But he's not quiet about players have to take ownership of the team. You have to take ownership of your position group, ownership of your meeting rooms, and I'm with you. It would be very surprising. And further, given we're taping this on Wednesday evening, he had his press conference with the media this afternoon, and I thought he came across incredibly confident, and he was really he spoke really highly of a bunch of guys that you're stepping up, playing well in scrimmages, practicing well. So it sounds like the culture around the team right now is very leadership driven, which I'm not gonna say there were red flags last year, but we didn't hear that as much in the lead up to the season in 2024 as we are in 2025.
Yeah, I love it. Football is here. Wanted to discuss the number 1 jersey for NC State. We've given you a list of players there. before we get going, guys, I got to ask you, what was your favorite number one you've seen worn here during this stretch? I'm gonna go first this time. I gave you guys the easy ones. I'm going with my guy, Mr. Jaylen Samuels. I mean, Jaylen Samuels at tight end, H-back, and that's why I was kind of looking at Joe Lee earlier. Just totally different player, though. I mean, I think Jaylen Samuels, we're going to do a Beyond the Boards with him, Jake, because, I mean, his story is fascinating. I'm not going to give too much away of how he ended up at NC State, but, man, was he so damn good.
He's my favorite, quote, like modern NC State player, like post 2015, if you want to call it in the past 10 years. He's been my favorite guy to watch offensively that State's had. Just for conversation's sake, I think what Isaiah Moore brought you for those 3 seasons. I mean, he was like just the epitome of that. Like he embodied it, and he's on this, he's coaching. Like he bounced back from an injury. He wasn't the most physically gifted player, but he got everything out of his God-given talent. Like every ounce of talent he had showed up on the field, which, look, we've all played and we've all coached. You've dealt with teammates and players that you were coaching that you just wanted to like grab them sometimes and shake them and be like, man, if I had what you had, or if that guy had what you had, like you'd be in the NFL for 15 years, and Isaiah Moore kind of fit that.
Yeah. Plus he was in a room with guys who got more, like just consistently more publicity, more accolades, more recognition on a national level. And like that's easy to get in your head. And for him to never have let that happen over 4 years is astounding.
Yeah. I'll never forget when in my opinion, he single-handedly won State that Wake Forest game. I think it was in 2022 when Wake had the ball inside the 10. I think he made, was it 3 straight tackles and blocked the field goal? I mean, that was unreal.
Yeah. I mean, just a great list of players all the way down to Davin Vann here recently.
Truly.
Who wore it as well. So wanted to discuss that. Great talking point. We'll see what NC State announces here coming out of fall camp. As always, we'd like to thank you all for checking out the video feature. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe at Inside Pack Sports here on YouTube to the channel. Check out the website, www.insidepacksports.com, for more NC State coverage.